Hello and welcome to the July 12th, 2026 episode of Nick's News. I am your host, Nick, brought to you by Some Budget Studios. That's right, we're paying for this project of ours. We're live every Sunday, and I thank you all so much for tuning in or catching the replay on the Nick's News YouTube channel. This is a program dedicated to bringing good news to counter all of the bad news that we are bombarded with on a daily basis, with the hope of bringing a little bit of joy back to the world. Several of our articles are pulled from sites like Positive.news, Industry Tap, Live Science, and GoodGoodGood.co, but we appreciate everything sent in by you, the Nick's Newsies. Hello, everyone. Hello, Nico. Hello, Becky. Hello, producer Donna. Hello, lurkers. That is what producer Donna has taken to calling the people that don't communicate in the chat, but hey, that's fine. I'm just happy that you're here. So, News Brew. So the rest of the month of July is gonna be working hard because it's all from Werk Force Brewing Company. We're gonna start off with the end of hibernation for strong beer and get into some real tough stuff. Werk Force Brewing knows it's time for all the mammals to wake up, including me. And this is 2026 Family Reserve Bourbon Barrel Aged Sleepy Bear. Now, this is a bear of a beer, too. I love the artwork on this bottle. Hate the fact that it is a wax coated top. I absolutely despise wax coated tops on beer bottles. I get that it's for looks. Hey, Dirty Rogue. But, like, I feel like it's too much. That's just me. It just makes it harder to get into it, and I want this beer. So this is a powerhouse 14% ABV, high octane Russian Imperial Stout. And we're going to get into some double trouble with this brew because this was it had barrel sessions in Buffalo Trace bourbon and rye whiskey barrels. So this is a barreled beer for sure. Now, it is a bottle, so we need the bottle song bottle opener, which we haven't used in a while. So, well, it means I'm bad. You didn't see that. The magic of editing means I didn't screw that up. There we go. Let's pop this open. I hate wax tops. And earlier, I popped the wax off of it in preparation for this episode, and I heard a small hiss, so I hope it didn't gas off a little bit. Because it is a big boozy Imperial Stout, we will be using our harpoon snifter. Didn't see what, says Dirty Rogue. We'll get into the theatrics. Oh my gosh, it's motor oil. Wow. That is a thick pour. Oh boy. The tappa of my ring on the bottle. Get every last drop. Come on. There we go. This is going to be a boozy brew. Oh my gosh. Hey, Tim. Oh, yeah, that is some grade A darkness. That's like my Under Armour shirt dark. Jeez. Oh boy. All right, shout outs. So, we are excited for Fox and Hen's third annual summer celebration, which is coming up Saturday, July 18th. Join the Fox and Hen for a day of wine slushies and one-of-a-kind summer-inspired hard ciders like you've never tasted before. The first 75 people to bring a lawn chair will receive a free pair of sunglasses. StrEATS Taco Truck and Holy Smokers will be serving food from 1:15 to 7 p.m., and Everyday Einstein will be providing the music from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. Fox and Hen is located between downtown Grand Haven and Allendale and is absolutely wonderful. If you get a chance, head out on Saturday to join them for their summer celebration. To everybody at Fox and Hen, cheers. Damn, boy, she thick. Oh my gosh. I practically chewed a part of that beer. Did you see me drink that, Little John? He's chilling right here in the corner. Um, this stuff is like Little John Dark, like my Scorpion Dark, not the rapper. Like, oh my gosh, or the musical artist. I'm not quite sure what genre of music Little John does anymore, but wow. Oh, this brew is big. Oh, it is tasty too. Oh, we got a winner, folks. All right. News quote. We are made for goodness. We are made for love. We are made for friendliness. We are made for togetherness. We are made for all of the beautiful things that you and I know. We are made to tell the world that there are no outsiders. All are welcome. Black, white, red, yellow, rich, poor, educated, not educated, male, female, gay, straight, all. We all belong to this family, this human family, God's family. That quote comes from Desmond Pilo Tutu, who lived from 1931 to 2021, who was a South African Anglican bishop and theologian, and was known for his work as an anti-apartheid and human rights activist, and received the Nobel Peace Prize in 1984. And I absolutely love this quote. Take what you will, or however you handle the religious aspect of it is how you handle the religious aspect of it. But I love every bit of this quote in that it is a great descriptor of the one people that we are. We are the species Homo sapien. We don't break ourselves up based on appearance or choices or how we're wired. We're one people. And we always will be. One of the first jobs I had, I was working at a lab and I was identifying bugs. And sometimes I was counting the number of gills that a bug had, and either 5 or 7 gills determined its species. We don't do that for the human race. We're all humans. We're all one species. So we are made, and we're all built the same with the same capacities. We just have to exercise them. So we are made for goodness. We are made for love. We are made for friendliness. We are made for togetherness. We are made for all the beautiful things that you and I know. We are made to tell the world that there are no outsiders. All are welcome. Black, white, red, yellow, rich, poor, educated, not educated, male, female, gay, straight, all. We all belong to this family, this human family, God's family. Thank you very much to Desmond Tutu. Cheers. Wow, that beer is just so thick. Oh, it's a good beer. Weird question. Have you ever seen a scorpion do a happy dance? For the bug update, I have multiple times from multiple scorpions. So I sometimes feed baby Madagascar hissing cockroaches to Elmira, Little John, and Sue because they will take them. Ripley will not. Ripley has never taken them off the tongs or has hunted them, so I don't think they're quite her preferred prey. But the other 3 absolutely love them. And they're not the best feeding option. They're kind of really fatty, and so where they might be good for like tarantulas and reptiles, they're not so much for scorpions. So I kind of give them as a treat, and it's like a potato chip. You don't want to eat a ton of potato chips, but occasionally you really want to enjoy a potato chip. So I'll give them these little treats, and every time I do, they do these specific little wiggles, and it's just absolutely adorable. Maybe not to anybody that doesn't keep scorpions, but I find it to be hilarious. And I got to see all of them doing a little wiggle dance. Even Sue, even though most of Sue was in his burrow, but he still does this little ha ha when he gets a a Madagascar roach baby, a potato chip. Um, Ripley's been fine with crickets, so no problems there. And the Cuddle Puddle doesn't mind because they don't want to hog the spot. They don't want their children to hog the spotlight. And they don't really give a crap about their kids, so their kids are just fodder for all of the predators that I own. So all is well in the bug room. Producer Donna says, potato chips make me wiggle too. And Becky says, potato chips. All right, with that, we're going to get into our good news. And our good news is broken up into 4 major categories. Those categories are science and technology, health and medicine, flora and fauna, aka plants and animals, and wholesome notes, the really nice ones we like to end on. Before we get into those, though, before we get into category 1, if you haven't already, please consider giving this video a like, and maybe a share, or maybe commenting. Interaction with our content is what continues to spread us across Nick's News. We do a limited amount of advertising on our own, but a lot of the spread that Nick's News has had is thanks to all of you. I can't thank you all enough for everything you do, so consider just liking the video, just hitting the thumbs up on this one and on the VOD when it gets posted later on down the week. It really goes a long way for us, and it shows that we've got that interaction to continue to get pushed by YouTube to spread good news. So thank you again. With that, we will get into category 1, science and technology. We've got 1 article in this section, and we called it a net zero nautical adventure. So I will copy and paste this into the chat if y'all want to check this out. And all of the articles that we read are in the description of the video. So you can go down there and check these out at your leisure. We implore you to do so because these sites deserve the traffic. They're the ones that are writing it. We're just reading it. So check these articles out. Check these sites out. It's a ton of good news. Like we pull like 6-7 articles a week. There are so many good articles. Like if you need a pick-me-up, check these sites out. They will help. So a boat trip can emit the same carbon as a 186-mile road trip. So this captain made his whale-watching boat emission-free. This was published on June 1st of 2026 to goodgoodgood.co by Megan Cook. Captain Dan Salas has spent his whole life on the water. At just 12 years old, he started working on the docks of San Pedro, California. Throughout his career, he went from tugboat captain to marine life guide, and eventually founded Harbor Breeze Cruises in 1990. Today, Harbor Breeze Cruises offers more whale-watching tours than any other operator in the region, reads a statement on the organization's website. Whether it's spotting a super pod of dolphins or witnessing the majesty of blue whales, our guests leave with memories that last a lifetime. Until now, guests haven't just left with their memories, they've also left with a hefty carbon footprint with every trip taken into Pacific waters. According to a study in the Journal of Sustainable Tourism, a sightseeing trip on a diesel boat can emit roughly the same carbon emissions as a single person driving 186 miles in a standard passenger vehicle. That's why, for the past 5 years, Captain Salas has been working with the Port of Los Angeles, the Port of Long Beach, and the California Air Resources Board to fund a new kind of vessel. This is called the El Escudo, he said in an interview with ABC7, pointing proudly to his 180-foot boat. It's the world's first parallel hybrid. This has been a technological advancement that we never, in my lifetime, thought I would actually see. The air quality in what we're doing is setting the tone for things to come in the future. According to Baird Maritime, the zero-emission boat can carry 350 passengers and reach greater speeds than a diesel-powered alternative. The vessel offers 4 distinct operational modes: conventional diesel, propulsion, fully electric propulsion, underway battery charging, and stationary shoreside battery charging, the Maritime news outlet wrote in a press release. The propulsion package allows the vessel to achieve significant emissions reductions while maintaining performance and efficiency for sailing on longer routes. For Captain Salas, the El Escudo is a way for him to continue building his business without harming his first love, the ocean. This is a gift back for my life here on the ocean, to give it back with clean air and a clean future, he said. Becky said, wait, Captain Dan, insert Forrest Gump reference here. I'm pretty sure that Captain Salas does have his legs, but to Captain Dan Salas, uh, who has designed a new type of vessel that is a zero emission vessel for continuing whale watching. Cheers. All right, so that's going to get us out of science and technology. We're going to move on to category 2, health and medicine. Wait a second. Was that? I might have that screwed up. Producer Donna, was this next one supposed to be a science and technology one and I accidentally moved it to health and medicine? I might have accidentally moved this one into the wrong category. And I have all my stuff closed that shows me where things were supposed to be before I started. It's a really cool water one. I'm pretty sure I have it in the wrong category. Yep, I put it in the wrong category. I'm going to have to change that in post. So we're still in science and technology, and we call this next one chemical engineering is in its own league. I will copy and paste this into the chat if y'all want to check this out. I have a mad respect for engineers. I am an engineer. And chemical engineers, let me get those engineer snaps in. Chemical engineers are really something else. A whole different kind of intelligent. So it's wild seeing what they come up with. New method turns ocean water into drinking water without waste. This was published to the University of Rochester on May 27th of 2026 by Luke Auburn. Becky said, oh geez, I'm going to get drunk tonight because Becky is playing the Knicks News drinking game. Yes, it does exist. I don't know all the rules to it, but apparently you take a drink whenever I go engineering. Dirty Rogue says, okay kids, it's time for the Snap with Nick game. Oh. A new energy-efficient desalination system produces fresh water without chemical additives and transforms leftover salts into useful materials. The United Nations estimates that 2.2 billion people lack safely managed drinking water, and communities from California to the Middle East rely on desalination plants to convert ocean water to fresh water. Common desalination techniques such as reverse osmosis and thermal distillation are energy intensive, require pre and post water treatment, and leave behind a concentrated saltwater byproduct called brine. The brine byproduct wreaks havoc on sea life when it's deposited back into the ocean by raising the salt level and lowering oxygen in the water. But a novel approach developed at the University of Rochester offers a way to overcome these drawbacks. Researchers at the University of Rochester's Institute of Optics developed a new solar thermal desalination process to produce fresh water in an energy-efficient way that does not leave behind brine and requires no chemical additives to pre-treat the water. A team led by Chun-Li Goh, a professor of optics and physics and a senior scientist at University of Rochester's Laboratory for Laser Energetics, described their method in a paper that was published in Light, Science and Applications. Hey, Waffle. The technology uses solar panels made of black metal etched with femtosecond lasers to make the surface super light absorbing and super wicking, or extremely attractive to water. The panels have a laser treated active region that pulls a thin layer of water across the surface, absorbs nearly all solar radiation, distills the water, and deposits the leftover salts and minerals into the panel's untreated sides or passive region so that the salt does not clog the active region and disrupt continuous desalination. Guo says other researchers have developed solar thermal desalination techniques that work well in lab experiments using simulated seawater made of only water and sodium chloride. As the water evaporates, the sodium chloride crystallizes in a grainy and porous fashion, allowing water to pass through to dissolve the salt. The solar panels, meanwhile, can be easily cleaned. But real ocean water has a much more complex composition, and these systems tend to encounter issues when tested in the field. Unlike sodium chloride and many other components in seawater, such as magnesium and calcium-based materials, crystallize into a crusty and non-porous fashion on the solar panel's surface, which clogs it up. Eventually, water can no longer seep through. This is the same phenomenon as your shower head clogging over time or your teapot that's lined with scales, except the seawater contains hundreds of times more salt than your tap water. Apparently, the waffle got toasted. Hey, Nate. To keep their solar panel surface from gumming up similarly, Guo's team precisely etched the black metal's grooves so the various salts and minerals in ocean water simply slough off. They also leveraged a physical phenomenon that has plagued clumsy Japhaphiles for centuries: the coffee ring effect. If you drop coffee on a surface, eventually the water evaporates, and there's a ring left at the outer edge that is a concentrated coffee particle. It's concentrated coffee particles, says Guo. We use that same principle to advance the salts to the passive region. I've spilt a lot of coffee in my time, so yeah, I'm familiar with that. Testing their solar thermal desalination technique using samples of water from the Pacific, Atlantic, and Indian Oceans, Guo and his team were able to make the surface self-cleaning. In other words, it extracted fresh water and directed the remaining salts to the passive region, where they could be later collected without reducing the panel's efficiency. One of the new desalination method's distinct advantages is that instead of leaving behind brine that must be disposed of and processed, it extracts nearly 100% of the salts in a solid form. This could not only produce an abundant supply of table salt, but it could also be used to extract more precious minerals, like lithium, which is used in lithium ion batteries that power electric vehicles and other electronics. In a related paper in the Journal of Materials Chemistry, Guo and his colleagues show how they can use the same super wicking solar panels to separate lithium from the rest of the other salts in desalination. Embedding nanoparticles made of hydrogen titanate in the tiny grooves of the black metal surfaces isolates the lithium from the other salts and minerals. Mining lithium from the earth has proven to be very taxing from an energy and environmental standpoint. So pulling lithium directly from salt water could be a very important future route, says Guo. Using water samples from Great Salt Lake, the researchers extracted about 50% of the lithium from the salts left behind by the desalination process. Guo says now that the super wicking desalination technology has been demonstrated in proofs of concept on small scale devices. He sees the technology inherently scalable, capable of improving global access to drinking water and building more sustainable supply chains for precious minerals. The National Science Foundation and Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and Worldwide Universities Network supported this research. Guo's colleagues from the Institute of Optics who contributed to the research include senior scientist Subhash Singh, alumnus Ron Wei, 24, who has a PhD students Lu Heng Tang and Tainshu Zhu, and Mingjiang Ma. That is really awesome. To everybody involved with figuring out a new desalination technique that just uses etched solar panels effectively. Cheers. Rogue says to producer Donna that we should advertise the Knicks News snap along with the snap along with Nick game. So we really need some heavy engineering articles to get the snaps going. So because it's the only thing I snap to. But we'll figure it out. There we go. All right. Now we're going to get into health and medicine, category 2. We've got one article in here, and we called it, What Can't These Things Do? I will copy and paste this into the chat if y'all want to check this out. Weight loss drug approved to treat sleep apnea in Canada. This was published to CBC.Canada News on June 24th of 2026 by Nicole Ireland. Health Canada has approved weight loss drug Zepbound for treating obstructive sleep apnea in adults with obesity. The department confirmed that the authorization granted on I am just botching this one left, right, and center. The department confirmed that the authorization granted on June 11th makes Zepbound the only GLP-1 drug in Canada approved for the sleep disorder that causes people to stop breathing temporarily because their upper airway is blocked. That blockage can happen when throat muscles relax or when there is too much fatty tissue around the upper airway. Sleep apnea causes daytime sleepiness and other potential risks, including high blood pressure, heart attacks, and strokes, said Dr. Mandeep Singh, a clinician investigator in sleep science at University Health Network in Toronto. It is often associated with obesity and can be improved with weight loss, he said. The active ingredient in Zepbound is tirzepatide, which acts on both GLP-1, glucagon-like peptide 1, and GIP, glucose-dependent insulinotropic polypeptide hormone receptors to reduce appetite, which leads to weight loss. Eli Lilly's tirzepatide medications, including Zepbound and diabetes drug Mounjaro, are competitors to Novo Nordisk's semaglutide drugs Ozempic and Wegovy. Health Canada spokesperson Marie-Pierre Burrell said tirzepatide should be injected once a week and used alongside a reduced calorie diet and increased physical activity in adults with obesity, measured by a body mass index or BMI of 30 kilograms per square meter or higher. Please note, though, there's been a lot of research involving BMIs. Your BMI can be very misleading. Like, even at my best, I was still considered overweight when I had like my best BMI score. I was mostly muscle back then too. So like BMI is weird, but it is cool that we have ways to reduce it or ways that can help. Nate says, "Oh man, I use a CPAP. It's awful. Any alternative to this is so welcome. The only thing worse than a CPAP is how you feel without it." I do not use a CPAP. I know several people that do, and I feel bad for everybody that has to, especially with dealing with sleep apnea. So if there's anything else that can help us to get through sleep apnea without folks having to use a CPAP, like, I'm all for it. The drug is not an immediate replacement for continuous positive airway pressure, or CPAP, that is a first-line therapy for moderate to severe sleep apnea, Burrell said. Patients taking Zepbound should not stop using their CPAP machine without a doctor's guidance, she said. Health Canada's approval follows Phase 3 clinical trials with patients who had both obesity and sleep apnea. The studies found sleep apnea patients on tirzepatide who weren't using a CPAP machine had 25 fewer breathing interruptions per hour compared with 5 fewer breathing disruptions among those taking a placebo. Among patients using a CPAP machine, researchers found 29 fewer breathing interruptions an hour among patients taking tirzepatide, compared with 6 who were taking a placebo. Singh, who is not involved in the clinical trials, said the severity of obstructive sleep apnea is defined by the number of breathing interruptions per hour of sleep. People with mild sleep apnea generally have about 5 to 14 interruptions per hour, he said, while those with moderate sleep apnea have 15 to 30 interruptions, and patients with severe sleep apnea have more than 30 an hour. A reduction of 25 to 29 events per hour would represent a meaningful change, potentially shifting someone from severe into a lower severity category depending on where they started, Singh said. I think that's a welcome step towards offering, another option for patients who have obstructive sleep apnea. Nate says, sleeping like a fighter pilot sucks. I agree. There are signs that losing weight on other GLP-1 drugs could be also benefit people with sleep apnea, but that's based on anecdotal observation by clinicians, and there isn't research evidence yet to make that claim, Singh said. So far, tirzepatide is the only one that's been tested for this. He said more study is needed to see if tirzepatide could have an effect on sleep apnea among patients who don't have obesity. Now that's going to be the real test, is to get into those trials and see if folks that don't have obesity but take tirzepatide don't have sleep apnea. Because if that's the case, then yes, tirzepatide is directly impacting sleep apnea. That would be crazy. Nate says, I don't snore at all, and I was 46 events an hour without it. Have your husband do it. Saying that to producer Donna. For your sanity. Oh, man. If we can kind of tease out what is the effect of weight loss versus what is the direct effect of these medications on the upper airway, that will be very interesting. The most common side effects of GLP-1 drugs, including tirzepatide, are nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, and constipation. More serious but much less likely side effects do include inflammation of the pancreas, bowel obstruction, and gallstones. Whenever a patient is diagnosed to have obstructive sleep apnea, we have a discussion about risks and benefits of the various treatment options available to them. And this medication will go on that list of options when we discuss the risks and benefits, Singh said. That is really awesome to potentially have another combatant in the fight against sleep apnea in the form of a GLP-1 drug, tirzepatide, also known as Zepbound. To everybody involved in this study and potential studies in the future, figuring out if tirzepatide or Zepbound can be used to reduce sleep apnea. Cheers. Nate says the test is easy and can be done in your own bed. All right, that's going to get us out of health and medicine. We're going to move on to category 3, flora and fauna, aka plants and animals. We've got 2 articles in here, and we're going to start off with Feathered Friends Help Fight Forever Chemicals. I will copy and paste this into the chat if y'all want to check this out. Penguins are helping scientists track forever chemicals in Patagonia. This was published on May 7th of 2026 to CNN by Rebecca Collins. Researchers have found toxic forever chemicals on the remote southern coastline of Argentina with the help of some avian assistants. Scientists fitted Magellanic penguins with silicone passive samplers, or SPS, bands, a non-invasive tool that absorbs chemicals from the water, air, and surfaces. We've been looking for alternatives to measure pollution on these species for a long time, says Ralph Van Streels, wildlife veterinarian at University of California, Davis, and co-author of a study published in March in the journal Earth: Environmental Sustainability. Inspired by wristband samplers that humans can wear to measure exposure to contaminants, he contacted Diana Aga, an analytical chemist at University of Buffalo, with a crazy idea. We place other devices on the penguin, so why not silicone bands? Over 3 breeding seasons, the interdisciplinary team gathered samples from 55 penguins. More than 90% of the bands detected polyfluoroalkyl substances, or PFAS, a group of synthetic chemicals used in a huge range of everyday products, from non-stick cookware and raincoats to firefighting foams and pharmaceuticals. PFAS are resistant to water, grease, chemicals, and heat, but that durability also makes them very hard to break down. They build up in the environment and in our bodies, and decades of research has linked them to health risks, including reproductive and developmental issues, and cancer. The concentration of PFAS is not high, but we found it consistently, says Van Streels. It shows that even in this very remote, not very inhabited region, these animals are getting exposure on a consistent basis. Traditional ocean monitoring is expensive and inefficient, says Van Streels, requiring a boat and a lengthy expedition with a crew. But penguins forage widely in the ocean, providing a natural opportunity to passively collect data. The penguins tell you which parts of the ocean are important, so that you're not sampling at random the whole ocean, he adds. SPS bands are typically worn by people as wristbands, but attaching standard bands to penguin wings would cause drag. So instead, the band was modified to include a small piece of stainless steel wiring, which allowed the field team to tailor the band to the width of a penguin's leg. Making them to size for each individual penguin gives us more confidence that it's not going to fall off, and it's not going to cause discomfort, says Van Streel. The process of fitting the band took 2 wildlife veterinarians around 3 minutes, minimizing distress to the birds, says Van Streels, adding that after attaching the band, the team monitored from a distance to make sure the penguins were comfortable. Of the 57 birds fitted with bands for the study, just 1 had its band removed after Van Streels suspected some discomfort, and only 1 band went missing after deployment. After the bands were collected, Aga's lab in Buffalo analyzed the samples using mass spectrometry. There are more than 7 million unique variants of PFAS, so to narrow the study's focus, the analysis targeted a mix of 24 legacy PFAS, many of which have been banned or are no longer produced, and new replacement PFAS, many of which are not regulated, says Aga, lead chemist on the study, or who was the lead chemist on the study. There's a rise in the replacement PFAS, which makes sense, but it's also concerning, says Aga. We thought that replacement chemicals would be less persistent, but it's not. It's just a bioaccumulative, and according to epidemiologists and toxicologists, they are just as toxic as the legacy PFAS. That sucks. Becky says, until I worked at a laboratory testing facility, I didn't know what PFAS was. Now I hear about it all the time, so I am happy to hear this article. I am too. The negative health impact of PFAS on wildlife has been documented in hundreds of studies, and analysis from the Environmental Working Group, or the EWG, a US-based nonprofit, has identified PFAS in more than 600 species. But data on many species is limited because traditional sampling methods like blood or tissue samples are invasive. David Megson, an environmental chemist at the UK's Manchester Metropolitan University, who is not involved in this research, says that the new method offers an innovative way to gather information about wildlife and the environment. When we do research on animals, the way to get the best quality data is a lot of time to kill the animal, which is just really horrible for a lot of us scientists that do this, because we care a lot about the environment, says Megson. Any technique that is moving us away from sacrificing animals and measuring organs, I think, is a really positive thing. While PFAS studies in North America, Europe, and China are abundant, there's been very, very little in South America, Africa, the global south, says Megson, adding that the inclusion of emerging PFAS in that analysis was interesting to see. Megson notes that the results of the study don't directly show how much PFAS is accumulating in a penguin's body or its impact on the bird's health, but adds that the SPS bans could be complementary techniques to better understanding the environment that they live in. Their main route of PFAS exposure is probably going to be from the fish that they're eating, not the general background in their environment, says Megson. If you could use the wristband to see what's going on around them, to take a blood sample, take a sample of the food that they're eating, then we can understand a lot more about the whole environment that they're exposed to and where the PFAS are coming from. While Magellanic penguins are not endangered, 13 of the 18 recognized penguin species have declining global populations, or are listed as threatened. There's other penguins that live in areas that are even more densely inhabited, says Van Streels, pointing to the critically endangered African penguin in Namibia and South Africa, and the little penguin in Australia and New Zealand. Those are examples of penguins that are living right next to urban centers and potentially large areas of industrial activity where this kind of pollution might be more significant. Van Streels and Aga hope this study can be a proof of concept for further research and plan to test the method on other wildlife, such as cormorants, seabirds that can dive more than 150 feet below the water's surface. And for the penguins, Van Streels hopes to continue monitoring the bird's exposure to pollution, particularly on its winter migration north to Uruguay and Brazil. There is no way of protecting penguins in Patagonia without dealing with global problems in terms of pollution, in terms of industry, in terms of how we dispose of chemicals, says Van Streels. To everybody involved in a study, putting little bands on penguins to measure PFAS levels in the ocean. Cheers. All right. This next one is going to be a good read. How familiar are you all with Neil the seal? If you haven't ever been exposed to Neil the seal, I recommend that you look up some videos or some TikToks or some reels of Neil the seal. Because it's Neil's world and we're all just living in it. I will copy and paste this to the chat if y'all want to check out this article. And I think Charlie sent me this article. Australian officials ask fans to respect the privacy of Neil, a 1-ton seal who respects nothing. It's Neil's world, and we're just living in it, one local said about a male elephant seal that weighs as much as a small car and has a social media following double Tasmania's human population. This article was published to NBC News on July 3rd of 2026 by the Associated Press. Like plenty of local boys before him, Neil has come home to the stretch of Australian coast where he was born. Unlike most of them, he trails fame, fans, and property damage in his wake. He is also a 2,200-pound elephant seal. In June, the bellowing, blubbery 5-year-old mammal hauled himself onto land for his twice-yearly tour of beachside towns in southern Tasmania state. After months of feeding at sea. That's posing problems now, as he weighs as much as a small car and has a social media following more than double Tasmania's human population. His rampage through local infrastructure has claimed bent traffic bollards, a sign warning the public about seals, and a fence that did not survive Neil's attempt to vault it. The rest of the time, he lies placidly any place he chooses, which is sometimes the middle of the road, bringing towns he visits to a standstill. But officials say their biggest concern is that Neil's popularity could lead to ill-advised human-seal encounters that are dangerous for both sides. Neil, the only male elephant seal to visit Tasmania in years, has commanded and enthralled TikTok followers of a TikTok following of 1.4 million, in part because he acts kind of like a jerk. During his visit to shore, during his 12th visit to shore, his crimes have included picking fights with parked cars and smashing through barriers erected to keep him off of roads. Those antics have prompted some online to hail Neil as a kind of anti-authoritarian hero, but experts say it's normal experimentation for a growing seal. Juvenile male elephant seals need to practice for dominance battles in which adults rear up and crash their chests together as they compete for breeding opportunities, said Sophie Volks, an elephant seal scientist based at the University of Tasmania in Hobart. With no other juveniles to practice with, Neil can only rehearse on Toyotas. Local officials fear that Neil is the latest wild animal whose social media stardom has outgrown what's good for him. Neil's fame is a bit of a double-edged sword, says Chris Carlian from Tasmania's Department of Natural Resources and Environment at a news conference in Hobart on Thursday in which he asked the seal's fans to give him privacy. We have some pretty silly behavior, instances with people carrying their small babies up close to him and simply trying to get that shot for Instagram, he said. That might be one of the dumbest things I've heard. Do not bring a small child next to an animal that's the size of a small car and regularly wrecks them. Why? Why would people think to do that? Becky says, like that drunk uncle that says, "Hold my beer." Officials have urged the public to refrain from identifying the town Neil is currently delighting or terrorizing, depending on whom you speak to. They fear a disastrous encounter between the seal and an admirer could force rangers into a risky operation to move him elsewhere. There are videos of people trying to move Neil, like wildlife experts trying to move him. It is a David versus Goliath situation where David is gonna get bodied if he makes a wrong move. Carlian also warned of the worse. In a 2023 episode, a walrus known as Freya, who drew huge crowds in Norway, had to be euthanized after officials cited a growing risk of human safety. There is a risk here of essentially loving Neil to death, Carlian said. It's usual for seals to return biannually to the place they were born to rest, fast, and shed fur. Many species roam inland during visits to shore, sometimes leading them into beachside towns. What's unusual about Neil is that he's the only male elephant seal hauling ashore in Tasmania. Subantarctic islands south of Tasmania are home to breeding populations of elephant seals, and Neil's mother would have arrived from one of them to give birth, Volk said. Females have been spotted ashore in Tasmania before, but topping out at the size Neil reached when he was a year or two old. They don't cause the same kind of chaos, she added. Humans got rid of those animals, and now maybe they are coming back and repopulating areas that they were previously seen in, she said. We do need to find a way to coexist. That could prove tricky for Neil, and for the rangers, police officers, and security guards who follow in his wake. If he survives to adulthood, Neil could grow up to 16 feet in length and weigh triple what he does now. Neil could clock in at 6,600 pounds at full size. That is the weight of very large cars. However, about 90% of male elephant seals die before they reach a breeding age of around 10, Volk said. For now, Neil the seal is occupying a stretch of sidewalk, unmoving and unbothered. Sometimes he canoodles with an orange traffic cone to the delight of his online followers. It isn't clear why he prefers that location, which he has returned to even after being ushered away by rangers. He's obviously decided this puddle surrounded by bollards, which are horizontal at the moment, is his spot, said Carlian on Thursday. His fans can relate. The locals have mixed feelings. He's one of our biggest exports at the moment, said Dale Creamer, a resident of the town that the seal is currently trashing, who has not been personally inconvenienced. It's Neil's world, and we're just living in it. To Neil the seal, and everybody involved with his antics, please give him a wide berth, and cheers. All right, that's oh, producer Donna said, in recent days, Neil's been nowhere to be found. It seems his winter 2026 reign of terror has ended, and he's now returned to the ocean after completing his annual molt. Community members have banded together to launch a petition calling for greater protection of Neil, including the creation of restricted access zones around Neil's known habitats. Well, that's cool. The terror has ended. Neil has returned to the sea. The petition to get him some protected area has reached 86,000 signatures. That is really cool. Thank you, producer Donna, for that update. All right, that's going to get us out of flora and fauna. We're going to move on to category 4, wholesome notes. We've got 2 wholesome notes tonight, and this first one is a heckin' good magician article. I will copy and paste this into the chat if y'all want to check this out. And again, thank you very much for all of your interaction with our content tonight. All of the likes, all of the shares, it all goes towards promoting Nick's News, and I can't thank you all enough for it. So, New York City magician uses tricks and treats to help shelter dogs get adopted. This article was published on May 21st of 2026 to goodgoodgood.co by Cameron Baker. John Stessel calls himself the shelter dog magician. His tricks go back to his 8th birthday, when he first got a magic kit and fell in love. In the 2 decades since, he has honed his craft and created a library full of tricks that he uses for good. One of those magic tricks? Making a dog treat vanish right before a pup's eyes. An entertaining trick for audiences and dogs alike, he began posting videos of dogs excitedly sniffing out the vanished snacks, aghast at the idea that it really could be gone. Stessel reached out to St. Hubert's Animal Welfare Center in New Jersey to collaborate on these videos, using adoptable dogs as his special assistants, and sharing the adorable clips in hopes of helping them find their forever homes. Dogs really have one centralized focus, and that's usually their treats, Stessel told ABC News. I thought, what if I made a treat disappear into thin air and catch their reaction on camera? And that's really when the dogs show their personalities off. Each dog reacts differently, and we gave them plenty of playtime, lots of love, and the videos took on a life of their own. While social media comments poured in praising the pups, adoption applications poured in too. The shelter continues to work with Stessel and sends him photos whenever the dogs he worked with get adopted. He also worked with Badass Animal Rescue, a New York-based rescue that has hosted Stessel at some of their adoption events. Stessel posts videos of dogs in Adopt Me bandanas and vests, with disclaimers that, even though he tricks them, all dogs are handsomely lavished in treats after the magic happens. It really is the most impactful work I've ever done. Magic is that feeling when you truly are astonished by something, But it doesn't have to be a trick, Stessel told ABC. Even hearing that my videos got one dog adopted, that's magic. To John Stessel and all of the different adoption agencies he has worked with, and to all of the heckin' good boys and girls that have found their forever homes thanks to him and his magic. Cheers. Not to be outdone, our final article of the night is an obligatory cat article plus dead mouse. I will copy and paste this into the chat if y'all want to check this out. Dead Mouse donates $30,000 to help 27 rescue cats. I got you. This was published to Billboard.com on July 9th of 2026 by Katie Bain. Dance music's most notable cat lover, Dead Mouse, has donated $30,000 to help 27 rescue cats. On May 27th, the Humane Society of Oakville, Milton and Halton, located in Oakville, Ontario, Canada, posted that it had just received 27 cats from a nearby household. Ranging from 3 months to 3 years old, none of the animals had ever been seen by a veterinarian. The organization asked the community to help raise $30,000 to cover the cost of intake exams, vaccinations, spaying and neutering surgeries, microchipping, and ongoing care to prepare these cats for adoption. In the comments section, Dead Mouse, who does charitable work with the Toronto Humane Society and has 3 rescue cats of his own, swooped in a few days later and simply wrote, "I got you." We've had many memorable moments at the shelter, but opening Instagram to find a message from Dead Mouse was definitely one we didn't see coming. HSOMH Executive Director Jeff Valentin tells Billboard in a statement. We're incredibly grateful for his generosity and, just as importantly, for the awareness he's brought to our shelter and the animals in our care. It's a rare and meaningful thing when someone with such a large platform chooses to shine a light on animal welfare and help more people understand the work we do every day. Becky asks, wait, what is Dead Mouse? A town, a person, a band? So Dead Mouse is a musician. He's most well known for a piece of headgear he wears. It's basically this giant, blown out of proportion mouse helmet. And it's gotten crazier with time. His music is really good too. Like, I do enjoy his music, so this is really something cool. The goodwill continued when the producer posted, "Help me name 27 cats, and then find them forever homes," on his Instagram stories Monday, June 8th. Oh, I'm sorry, this was posted on June... When was this article posted again? I think I said it wrong. It was posted on June 9th. I don't know if I said July. It was June 9th. The goodwill continued when the producer posted, "Help me name 27 cats, and then find them forever homes," on his Instagram stories Monday, June 8th, with a link to a page where fellow cat enthusiasts can suggest names, noting that the suggested names will eventually be voted on. And there is a link in the description. You can check it out and see if it's still active to vote for the names for these 27 cats. Valentin says the support provided by Dead Mouse will make a real difference for these cats and kittens, but the conversations and engagement that followed have been just as valuable. We're especially excited that Dead Mouse invited his fans to help name the 27 cats and kittens. It's a fun way to bring people into their stories, and we can't wait to see what names they come up with. Though the Grammy-nominated musician took action to help the nearly 30 cats in late May, his charitable work with the feline world doesn't end there. Dead Mouse launched his Reverb shop on June 2nd, coinciding with Adopt a Shelter Cat Month, featuring music gear, tour posters, merch, and more. A portion of the proceeds will benefit no-kill nonprofit rescue organization Toronto Cat Rescue. That is amazing. To Dead Mouse and to all of the different organizations, the different humane societies that he works with, taking in these animals, getting them the care they need in preparation for finding their forever homes. Cheers. And producer Donna has an update for us. Hit me with that update, producer Donna. There's always a delay. In the meantime, I'll look for my bugs. There it is. So, as was mentioned in the article, those 27 cats all came from one home. Well, it turns out there were 3 more, and the family did surrender those 3 as well, which brought the total to 30 cats that were rescued from this home. So, kudos to everybody involved in getting those cats out of what sounds like a not so good situation and getting them into a position where they can find better forever homes. That might have just been an excuse to have another sip of that beer. But thank you very much for that update, producer Donna. That about does it. Wow, 7 amazing articles tonight. Fantastic good news. Net zero whale watching, desalination, potential drugs to help with sleep apnea, so you don't need a CPAP. Penguins helping discover where forever chemicals are in the ocean. Neil the seal, an absolute menace to society. Really good magic, and Dead Mouse, both helping find forever homes for dogs and cats, respectively. It really is something else. Good news, finding this good news and being able to present it. So, thank you all again for tuning in or catching the replay on the Nick's News YouTube page. We're live every Sunday. Our next episode will be on July 19th of 2026. We encourage participation, so by all means, if you want to post suggestions for news brews, shoutouts, news quotes, and especially good news articles that we can present on future episodes, send them in. We're listening. We love seeing what you guys send to us. So if you do send a bunch of articles, try to spread them out across our 4 categories, which again were science and technology, health and medicine, flora and fauna, aka plants and animals, and wholesome notes, the really nice ones we like to end on, like magicians and Dead Mouse. Helping out dogs and cats. You can message us on Facebook or Instagram, or you can email us at somebudgetstudios@gmail.com. Links are in the description of the video. Feel free to like, subscribe, or comment on our content across all our platforms. That includes Facebook and Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok, where we're doing the news nibbles on TikTok. If you check out our Facebook and our Instagram, you'll see we do news nibbles. They're not quite full articles. They're these little breakdowns that producer Donna makes of really good news. And we pick 3 of them each week, and we put them on TikTok. I actually read them out and do a TikTok for them. So check that out if you haven't seen it. I think it's a lot of fun, and it's another way to get good news constantly. So you're not waiting for a Nick's News episode on a Sunday or the VOD to come out on a Monday or Tuesday. You can check out the TikTok, and we're doing 3 a week on there. So, and I really enjoy them. So please know SEO and advertisements, we're not interested. We pay for our own advertisement, and we thank you all for your assistance with this. Everything that you guys do, all the interaction that you give us is what drives Nick's News, like I stated earlier. Every like, every shout out, every share, every time you talk about Nick's News outside of this show continues to grow us. And it's amazing that we continue to spread and we continue to bring good news and joy. So, as always, thank you again. I love you all. Have a great night, and I will play us out.